People in Vatican City and really around the world are mourning the death of Pope Francis today. Global leaders are paying their respects and remembering the pontiff's legacy. The Vatican will observe a 9-day period of mourning now. Francis must be buried within 4 to 6 days after his death. The papal conclave will then begin after that period of mourning, and the church will choose its next leader. CBS News papal contributor Candida Moss joins us now with more on what to expect next. Great to have you with us again, Candida. I know it's been a long morning for you as well. We just heard from our correspondent here in New York, Nikki Batiste, reference that some Catholic sexual abuse survivors wish that Pope Francis would have done more. We've also heard from some bishops earlier who say that the Pope did an incredible amount as a humble man and really prioritized the people. What do you think is the lasting legacy for Pope Francis, and what are the areas in which maybe Catholics don't feel as if he did enough?
It's a great question, and thanks for having me. So it seems to me that Pope Francis's biggest impact has been in the way he has reshaped the College of Cardinals. The people who elect the next Pope are going to represent a global church, including people in South America, in Africa, and in Asia. And that affects which of the issues Francis prioritized during his papacy will be on the docket. He did take steps towards fixing things around sex abuse scandals in the church. But as we've already heard, more could be done then, including listening to survivors of abuse themselves. He has spoken widely about the environment, about the plight of immigrants and migrants around the world, and he has persistently in the last 2 years called for peace around the world. In terms of his legacy, I think our next Pope is going to have a lot of pressure on him to be a simple man of humility like Pope Francis, who led through example, and to choose for himself whether or not he wants to continue to press in the progressive direction in which Francis was taking the church.
And that's another aspect that you and I have discussed today, which is that just because Pope Francis was perceived as more progressive than his predecessor does not necessarily mean that will continue to be the case with the next Pope, especially because of where the other people who will be voting for the next Pope are coming from. I'm noting Africa specifically, where they're much more conservative on issues related to women and LGBTQ people. So considering that Pope Francis changed the papal conclave almost in his image, I think nominating 80% of them, what is the outcome likely to be from this next gathering?
Well, there was an opportunity to kind of sort of rig it for his successor. But of course, he didn't choose to do that. As you already noted, African cardinals tend to be much more conservative on social issues like the inclusivity that Francis displayed towards LGBT people, gender roles, the role of women in the church, and divorced and remarried Catholics. And so I think what we're going to see is a new pope who is going to have to appeal to Catholics from around the world, not just the issues that dominate European and North American Catholicism, but also issues of poverty, of inclusivity for people from other religions, and also for issues of immigration, and perhaps also the social issues that dominate the church in Africa.
And we will be watching that very closely. Candida, thanks for connecting with us again this morning. Really appreciate your insight.
Thanks for having me.
Let's bring in Dr. Joseph Capizzi now. He's Dean of Theology and Religious Studies at the Catholic University of America. I want to pick up with you where we just left off on what this next Pope might bring. We've got rounds of voting that will take place. Help us understand, after these 9 days of mourning, what exactly happens next and how this next Pope will be elevated.
Sure. As you said, there will be rounds of voting that will take place among the College of Cardinals. Those cardinals who are under the age of 80 years old and eligible to vote will gather together at the Vatican, and they'll do this in a series of days, probably, during which time they'll deliberate with each other about which direction, which man they think best, exemplifies the character to take the church forward from Pope Francis's papacy.
I'm also fascinated to know that many of them don't know each other. Many of them will be meeting one another for the first time as they head to Rome to mourn the passing of the Pope. So in what ways might they group along language or beliefs that at least gives them a sense of the room and who might be a forerunner?
Yeah, I have to be careful, of course, speaking about this because I don't know many of these new men either.
Right, sure.
You know, yeah, and of course the context will really determine how they come together. I think you're right to anticipate a lot of it will be linguistic, although many of the cardinals will speak Italian because they've been in Rome many times, and many of them were trained in Rome. So Italian may be, you know, the sort of universal language, but there still will be affinities that will develop, and those will influence conversation and the sort of groupings that occur. But probably you can anticipate newer cardinals, especially newer, younger cardinals, will be drawn towards candidates by their older peers. So blocks will develop for sure, as they always have. The reporting is always typically, you know, of course, post hoc. But it's going to be an exciting time for all of us to pay attention to.
And in the last few seconds, what will you remember most from Pope Francis's time?
Everybody's spoken about his humility, but I think another aspect of his character that was quite evident all the time was his great sense of humor. And that was what made him so human and accessible. He was a man who enjoyed meeting people as they were and finding humor in the situations of life that I thought was extraordinarily inviting.
Yeah, humor really can transcend all. Dr. Joseph Capizzi, we appreciate you joining us. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure.